But if you sit back and you watch, if we give space to them, they may then come to those objects and they pick them up and they put them back in. And they pick them up and they put them back in, one at a time. So isn't it amazing that perhaps that child, in their wisdom, created this experience to have that practice? That's one example, I would say.
Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Pamela Green. She's a Montessorian. She's also taken positive discipline, and she's been working with parents and children for over 40 years. I would love for Pamela to do the honor and let us know all the types of work that she has done, and then we'll get into conversations that will help parents and other school leaders or in the classroom, teachers, guides with various questions that come up for us. So Pamela, tell me and tell the audience a little bit about your journey in the last 40 years.
Well, first I want to thank you for inviting me. It's quite a pleasure to be with you, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you that are listening and with us now, as you will be when you hear this. My journey really started in 1981 when I first entered the CASA, or the House of the Child. It was part of my university experience. I was in an elementary education, and our professor for the visit that we went on, he chose to go to this Montessori school. And, it's still pretty common that you get a few paragraphs about Marie Montessori, not a whole lot. So I really only read that. I went to this place, and when I went there, it was like an answering to a call in me. What kind of I knew of myself in knowing children, but I hadn't seen a place like that. I feel that began my initiation, which, we all have initiations, don't we? So I started there, and I became head of school there at that school. I was there from 1981 till 2013. I'm also a Montessori parent and a grandparent. I want to mention that. Right now, in 2013, I started Ananda Montessori, which is a place where children can be together with adults and learn together. I think of it as a living practice of Montessori because the adults, whether they are parents or grandparents or caregivers, they're immersed in the practice, which is the practice of observation and the practice of observing what we see, and also our inner observation. I've also been attending births since 1986 in hospitals, and presently always attending home births. So that's my practice as well in Montessori, is attending births, teaching childbirth class, and on that level. So and I'm a consultant and a teacher trainer. I do that as well. But I love to work with parents. It's my heart. It touches my heart so much. That's kind of the journey that I've been on, and I continue to be on, because Montessori, to me, at least, is a practice of life, and so it's ongoing, and it deepens.
Beautiful start, and it continues to support not just your family, but families who really need the support. Edward Cuevas, I think, has the "nobody was born a parent," parent education he talks about, and it's so true. We get into education because we see a deficit or we need something, and Ananda is a beautiful place from what I've seen from the information you shared online, that I get to watch the beautiful videos of children growing and learning. And I'm so grateful that you will be here talking about a variety of topics relating to a Montessori classroom to support parents and caregivers alike, maybe the classroom guide or the leader. So starting off, discernment, we know Maria Montessori speaks about the prepared adult and preparing the environment for the young person to learn without obstacles. So what are some signals or clues that could help us discern whether we, the guide, the adults in the classroom or at home, meeting the needs of the child versus our own goals or, ideas that we have that we bring into the classroom?
It's a wonderful contemplation. Discernment, I was looking up over time different definitions of discernment, and inner guidance is one. But at one time, I found one definition which resonates with me very deeply and connects to Montessori, and that is to know what is yet unknown, which reminds me of her speaking about to see the child who is not yet there. And I expand that out to see myself as I am not yet here, those aspects of all of us, and see the adults who's not yet there, that vision. But discernment for me it is a practice. We all come into that in different ways. Discernment to me also is something alive. It's not stagnant. It's just like Montessori is a verb, it's about light. So discernment is to me sitting with something I call whole body listening with my senses, as she spoke about with observation, to bring procuring our senses to come from that level of vision and really of listening, to consider before any movement that I make, anything that I say. Thoughts will come in, and even the thoughts that come in, to sit with those a little bit. The other part of discernment to me is intentions, which is very different than motivations. I feel motivations can be more externally or more connected to our past or our future or what might happen. And intention, my experience of it is to be in more presence. So if I'm with a child or with guiding parents and children, which I have the opportunity to do, and we talk about this practice and quite a bit at Ananda, if we're considering a movement or we're considering to come and to offer something to a child, one question I ask is, will this add anything to this child's experience, or might it take something away? Is it a movement of inserting myself into their own experience they're having because of maybe my thoughts that I can help, or I know something more than the child does? All of those aspects come into it. The other thing I'll say is to, at least for me, part of the practice is to bring some distance between myself and the other person so that I'm giving them that autonomy. And I have my autonomy as well, so that I can sit and consider and sense and feel, and to give space for the unknown. Because sometimes for me anyway, and I've seen this in guides and adults, and I fully understand it, we may notice something that is happening with a child, or we think we know, and that if we pause and we wait just a little bit longer, the child reveals to us what's really happening. And if we come in too soon, we won't be able to see that. And it could be around, I'll just give a quick example with the young children, maybe toddler age, where they're in the practice in themselves of pouring things out. For adults, sometimes that can get maybe even annoying. What are they doing that they have it and then they pour it out, and then they bring it up and they pour it out? But if you sit back and you watch, you might notice that even really with small objects, that, let's say, if anything that's small and it's going out, or whatever the size, if we give space to them, they may then come to those objects and they pick them up and they put them back in. And they pick them up and they put them back in. One at a time. So isn't it amazing that perhaps that child in their wisdom created this experience to have that practice? That's one example, I would say.